So who's right? The red pill or blue pill? It's Blue Fam, peace and blessing. This is Derric Rau Khu more. And first of all, let me apologize for coming to you the way I am. Last night, I got promoted in my Muay Thai class. And prior to us being, them going through the promotion ceremony and everything, we did like 11 rounds, Rau Khu's number. We did 11 rounds of sparring. And yeah, brother is tired, My wife and my daughter, they took me out to celebrate. So we went and got something to eat and everything. And as soon as we got back to the house, I went ahead and I called myself laying down to stretch, and I woke up 2 hours later actually. So yeah, brother was tired. Okay, so I got a little bit of energy and everything, and I was like, let me go ahead and do this real quick, because this is a subject that I have been wanting to talk about for the longest. I was kind of letting it marinate a little bit and see how it came about, and here we go. Okay, here we are. So here's the thing, presently situation that's going on, okay, it's a male versus female, okay. It is, should you be red pill, should you be blue pill, and it goes back and forth. We're doing all this, and the main reason why all this is basically taking place is because if you've studied Kemetic spirituality long enough, if you've studied or any other spirituality outside of Western thought, you would notice that Western thought and Western thinking, their government system, all their institutions are basically, they're polarized on one side. Okay, it's either the left or it's the right. Okay, it's either good or it's evil. It's either, it's always the same thing. And as a result of it being that way, what Westerners, how they call themselves fixing things, is basically, let me take from this group and give to this other group. Okay, so that's the situation that we're all in right now. We're all in this big old thing that's happening because basically, in order to quote unquote fix things, they've taken from one group, given to another group, okay, which has caused mass confusion, okay. And the communities that experience this, and feel this the most is always typically our community. Okay, when in the 80s, when the whole crack cocaine thing hit, who experienced it? The whole cocaine thing hit. Who experienced it the most? Okay, and this is not to compare who has the most wounds and who has the most victims and all that kind of stuff. It's just that at an early age, I've went ahead and I noticed this. Okay, our community has always been the litmus test for everything that basically happens in this country. Okay, and right now we're going through this whole thing is in regards to the quote unquote absence of males. Okay, and the whole rise of this different kind of this new type of feminism and everything. Okay, now as I've stated before, please don't send me any comments about your views and all that kind of stuff in regards to if you're for feminism, against feminism and all that kind of stuff, because you're barking up the wrong tree. I could care less. Both of them are wrong. Okay, that's how I look at it, and I'm gonna continue to say that because they are. Both of them make some good points, and both of them make good points at the same time. Both of them, they also nullify each other. So I mean, it's pointless. Okay, and the reason why is because they're all based upon opinion for the most part. All right. Now, that being said, okay, When I go ahead and, like I said, I wanted to approach this, I wanted to talk about this because also what's going on, because of this whole situation, as I was stating, they've taken, rights and privileges from one group and given it to other groups, okay? And it's caused a big, massive ball of confusion. And as a result, we're in this situation that we're in. I mean, there are good men who are basically, and when I'm saying good men, I'm talking about good, loving fathers, strong fathers, providers, who are being raked over the coals, by the court system, because the court systems all the laws have been written in favor of one particular group, okay? At the same time, there are women and children who are basically suffering from all this, for whatever reason, okay? Now, I don't mean for whatever reason, but like I said, it's because of this whole, this ball of confusion. Now, I've stated this before. When I went ahead and, prior to me meeting my wife, I was in a relationship with an individual who was basically, they were also involved in the Kemetic Spirituality, and they were familiar with the court system. They were familiar with a lot of the things that have been done against males, okay, against black males in particular, all right? And the interesting thing about this was that even though she was aware of this, even though she knew about this, when we were in a situation, she went right back into the whole shaming, guilting, and insulting, and all that kind of stuff that a lot, not all, but that a lot of women are doing now, okay? Now, it never changed or any of that kind of stuff, and, she went ahead and she did all this and everything, and she couldn't change it. Even though she knew about this, she couldn't change it. And the reason why is because we've all basically have been conditioned to be this way. Okay? We've all been conditioned to be this way. Remember, your conditionings are inside your subconscious. They're not in your conscious. Okay? So the reason why she was, even though she knew about this, but she still engaged in that same, basically destructive behavior, is because you cannot consciously tell yourself to do something. One of the examples that we always give, one of the examples, that we always give, because it's such a easy and relatable example, is that the reason why people can't, people go in here and they can't stop smoking when they tell themselves to stop smoking, because smoking is a habit, and a habit is it's inside your subconscious, okay? So, and your subconscious has a different programming. It has a different way of communicating than your conscious does, okay? So that's the reason why you can't break habits by just saying, hey, I guess what, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop doing this, okay? It has to be a repetitive thing. You have to go ahead and you gotta program your subconscious to go ahead and do things in a different manner, in a different way, okay? So that's the reason why that individual, this lady, she kept doing it. And that's the reason why a lot of us, we keep doing it. It is also the same reason why you have men who, are identified as beta males, because this is how they were raised. They were raised to go ahead thinking this is how, this is how relationships are supposed to function. Okay? And again, it's not about whose fault it is and all that kind of stuff. I'm not even focusing on that. My focus is on trying to find a solution. Okay? So the question is now, are we supposed to be alphas? Are we supposed to be alpha males? Are we supposed to be beta males? Are we supposed to be, what's the other one, sigma males? And there's a couple other ones out there. But are we supposed to be any of those? Which one are we supposed to be? Well, the one thing I find, one of the things I should say that I find beauty in Kemetic spirituality is the fact that, as I've mentioned to you all before, if you commit the story of Osir, excuse me, if you commit the story of Osir to memory, eventually your spirit or your spirits, they'll start giving you with all kind of different insight, all kind of different comments and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that insight relates to things that are going on outside in this physical reality that we live in. Okay? For instance, I'm not sure if anyone has actually done the quote-unquote science on this. But have you ever noticed that Osir, okay, some people spell it, I was instructed to spell Osir's name O-S-A-R. Some people spell it A-S-R. Some people spell it A-S-A-R, A-S-E-R, or A-U-S-R. Okay, whichever way you spell it, okay, it is what it is. But have you noticed that Osir's complementary is Oset? Oset's name is spelled O-S-E-T, A-S-T, A-U-S-E-T, okay? But have you ever noticed that Osir and Oset, they're complementaries of each other, and basically the difference between the two in regards to the spelling of their name? Okay? Have you noticed that if you take, so if you remember, you have Osir, who is about prosperity, it's about building, it's about community, it's about unification, all these, what we consider to be, quote unquote, by Western standards, the good qualities, but all these constructive ways of doing things. Offset the complementary is basically the same thing. She's about doing that as well, but from a different perspective. But she's not, not on that same footing. She's on the same footing as Osir, but I mean, she doesn't have the same lofty goals. Okay? She's like a great, she's a great spouse. Okay? But ever noticed that as soon as you take the O, the AU or the A, the A part of Oset's name, as soon as you go ahead and you take those letters off, you have Set, which is Osir's rival or Osir's polar opposite. Have you ever noticed that? And Set is what? Set basically is all, whereas Osir is about building, is about community, is about unity. Set is the total opposite. Set is all for self. Set is materialistic. Set is confusion, chaos, ignorance, the whole deal. Have you ever noticed that? Okay. Another thing that I found that was interesting that spirits went ahead and they showed me was that we talk about, we hear about the fact that you got all these men who are absent out of the community, all these men who are absent out of, the house. They're not the head of the house. And if you compare that to the story of Osir, Isn't that when Osiris is missing? Isn't that when Osiris is gone? That you're having the same situation that Offset is going to, Offset is having this same situation, whereas no one's protecting her, no one's providing for her, no one is building up anything and helping her to, to do the things that she needs to do, to be a queen. Have you ever noticed that? I mean, of course, like I said, this is the beauty of Kemetic spirituality, because even though it's a great story, it is very relatable to the things that we are experiencing. Okay? Aren't we living in a time of Set where we have all this, because the father is gone, the Osiris is gone, okay? Osiris has been murdered, all right, by whatever, okay? Osiris has been murdered, the Osiris have been murdered in this system, in this society. That's why, like you said, there's no male. The presence of males is pretty absent. Aren't we living in a Setian society? Okay? Isn't Set basically in control of everything that's going on? Once you make that comparison, then you'll understand why Offset was like, I gotta get an heir for Osiris. I gotta get an heir for Osiris. Okay? It wasn't about, it wasn't about, well, she had to do it, or that she couldn't do it, I should say. She had to do it because she needed someone to counter Set. Now, another beauty about this, and like I said, whenever you look at the story of Osiris from a shamanistic perspective, you will notice that Osiris, basically, he's wearing this white crown. And even though there's a little depiction, Set usually is symbolizing that red crown. So after Osiris basically magically conceives Haru and everything, and after Haru finally defeats Set, after fighting him countless number of times, and he finally defeats Set after he gets with Jehuti, who gives him the wisdom to say, hey, this is where you need to strike him. And he's able to see, hey, this is how I can go ahead and I can defeat Set, and does it. After Haru actually wins the battle between him, the battle as well as the court, the legal, you had to go through all the legalities and everything. After he finally wins, he's wearing both crowns. He's wearing the white and red Pishent crown. Okay? Now, that brings us to the question. Should we be alphas? Should we be betas? Should we be sigmas? What kind of male are we supposed to be? And according to the story, the ancestors are saying, okay, I mean, like I said, you go to your ancestors about this. But to me, my ancestors are saying, you're supposed to be all of them. Okay? Because sometimes you gotta be alpha. Sometimes you gotta be beta. Sometimes you gotta be sigma. You gotta be all of them. Okay? There is no let me be this way and not this way. Okay? That's the thing that I think a lot of people, they miss. And the reason why is because you're polarized in Western thinking. Okay? It's like the current situation that's going on right now. When Kevin Samuels, the late Kevin Samuels, when he first came out, okay? Kevin Samuels was all about, even though he was quote unquote red pill, he was all about family. he still talked about he still talked about marriage. He still talked about family. If you go back and you listen to a lot of his old lectures, or a lot, not lectures, but a lot of his calls and everything, that's what he talked about. That's what he stressed about. Okay. Now, after he passed and everything, and everybody's trying to, you see all these people basically fighting for the crown. You have this guy, Andrew Tate. There's similar talking points that he has, but he's not talking about the same thing. Andrew Tate is not talking about it, or, before he converted to Islam, he's not talking about marriage. He's not talking about family or any of that kind of stuff. He's talking about going ahead and doing, hey, let me do the things, let me make as much money as I can and enjoy it, spend it on myself, blah, 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 blah. That's it. Okay? So if we want to, again, make that same comparison. Kevin Samuels could be equated to Osier. Andrew Tate can be compared to Set. Now, before you go there, this is not good versus evil. This is not about good versus evil. That's a thing that a lot of us keep missing because, again, we're polarized in Western thinking. Okay? This is all about balance or imbalance. Okay? And that's where we're at. If you really want to kind of understand what this means, go back and watch the Matrix movie. All right? For the longest time, every time I kept watching, I remember the first time I saw the Matrix movie, I was thinking the same thing. Oh, Neo's the good guy, and Mr. Smith's the bad guy. And it kept going over my head. Until it finally clicked. No, Neo is telling the architect, this is what I'm bringing. I'm about balance. Okay? I'm going to go ahead, if we win this, then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Y'all can go ahead and you can do this. Balance. Mr. Smith, on the other hand, was like, I'm going to take over everything. Who cares? It's all about me. Imbalance. Okay? And that's the part we keep missing. So like I said, it's about being balanced. You can't just be one. You can't just be an alpha. All right? I mean, it can't be. I'm not saying it can't be done. But if you're trying to go ahead, you want to be, like I said, you want to follow that Andrew Tate path. And I'm not criticizing or anything. Excuse me. But I am saying this. What's the whole purpose of making all this money and you can't spend it on a family? Again, look at the story of Osier, and you'll see Set is childless. Not a kid. Can't pass on no generational wealth that way. We can't build no community that way. All right? And I'm saying that on both sides of the aisle. All right? So we have to go ahead. We have to look at our spirituality. We have to go back to our ancestors and look at how our ancestors dealt with things. Because if the saying is true about there being nothing new up under the sun, this crap has all played out before. All right? It's the same thing. We've seen this before. So there's a solution. The solution exists. We just need to go ahead and we need to figure out how to go to our ancestors and talk to them about it so that we can go ahead and get some insight on how to navigate through this BS that we are in, okay, in order to make the future that we want for ourselves and our children, okay? So I know that was kind of long. I just really wanted to get that out and wanted to make sure my point was clear. Again, if you had any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to drop me a line. Until next time, Hechapu, peace.